Hey, what's up guys? Back again with another video in the QuarterMaster series, or Spigot series for the QuarterMaster plugin. And yeah, I know it's been a little while since I've made a video in this little couple part series for this plugin, or even in any videos at all. But I'm back again, and I want to try and finish this plugin because it's getting kind of long in its development. So I want to finish it. I made a good progress off camera, so I just want to show you how what I've done really. I've actually made a lot of different changes, so this might be a little bit of a difficult video to watch. I don't know if it's gonna be difficult, but it's gonna be a long video for sure, probably, because I want to hurry up and finish this couple of part series. I think next episode we'll do permissions, and this video will pretty much be us finishing the plugin. I don't know, it depends on how long it is, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I made a bunch of huge changes to the structure of the program, like for example the GUI manager class. I decided to go with something different, very similar at least. We kept these methods here and all that, but I found that it's actually a better idea to use a singular inventory object for the whole class, so that you can have one single inventory object that represents your whole menu system, so that every time you want to change the GUI menu, all you got to do is alter that inventory object. And so it's more centralized in that way, and we keep everything in one single class also, so it's more centralized also. And more importantly, if we keep it all into one class, we could also have variables into this class, and then each of these methods can share access to those variables. So we can basically share data over the entire menu system. So for example, in our current system, whenever we open up the locks list GUI for the player, the menu that shows all the different locks that the player has, we have to explicitly put inside of the lore for one of the items the ID for the lock. And then whenever we click on one of the locks, we have to take that ID and then transfer it across the inventory system to the next menu, and then put that ID in an item in that menu also. So basically the point is we can't, there isn't a really good way to share data across classes, across methods, across menus. So if we keep variables in this GUI manager class here, we'll be able to do that. And I know that probably didn't make sense, but I'll show you in a second. You'll get plenty of explanations and first-hand experience by watching this, because I'm going to explain it all in detail. So anyway, let's go ahead and check out what we did so far in this little series, like what we got so far for the plugin. So we're going to do QuarterMaster. Oh yeah, I forgot the commands. So locks, is that it? Locks, lock. Okay, that's to make a new lock, right? Let's put a chest down and see if that works. So lock. There we go. It says lock detected. Lock chest ? No. Yes, and now let's do list, and now that shows all my locks. Pretty cool. It even shows the dates and everything. For some reason the time, like the minutes and the hours, is different for each one, but the actual Thursday, November 14th, that's not correct, because I made these a long time ago, about a month ago. But yeah, we'll get experience with that, don't worry. Oh, I think I know why actually. It's because last night I was working on the plugin and it's sharing the same database as my other plugin, so that's probably why that's doing that. But anyway, that's how that works. We just have that two systems. Does it do anything when we click on this? Oh yeah, cool, we have this too. So this is the lock manager menu, and then also we have to take the ID. So let me show you what I was talking about. Oh, we don't even have that yet. Okay, we need to add that also, where it makes it go back. Well, yeah, let's do this. So yeah, we see at the bottom of each of these items, we have the ID at the very bottom. See that? 5DCC50, that? Whenever we click on one of these, we have to take that ID and then basically transfer it to an item inside of here. But the point is, if we use a centralized class system, we don't have to do all of that. But anyway, let's get started here. Enough rambling. Let's go ahead and start making these changes so we can begin finishing the plugin. Alright, so let's open up QuarterMaster YouTube, and the first thing I want to do, like I said, is have a more centralized GUI manager system. So let's change this. Let's just delete all of these, and we're going to change this to menu. This menu object, or this inventory object to named menu, is going to represent the entire menu system for the entire plugin. So they're all going to reference the same menu, and every time we want to create a new menu or basically change the GUI in some way, we'll just re-instantiate it by doing that. So basically we'll do menu and then menu, basically. Okay, so that should work very well. Everything's more centralized already. At least I like it like this, so I recommend you do it like this also. So we'll just change all of these here to menu. Okay, cool, so we got that down. Everything's changed now except for this down here. We have a public static inventory get locks list GUI, return locks list GUI. So we'll change this one to menu also. And actually, we'll just change this to like get menu or something like that. Refactor, rename, get menu, enter, enter. And where are we using this? If you hold Control, you can click on a method and it'll show you where it's used. And we use it down here whenever we click on the chest inside the locks menu, when it shows our locks. Whenever we click on one of the chests, it's going to open up the lock manager GUI, and then it's going to grab the ID, and then that's how it opens it up. Okay, so that's good to know. That's how that works. So let's think about what we want to do next. One thing that we have here is the list command and the lock command. And inside the lock command, we have this thing where whenever we do /lock on a block, it's going to obviously ask us if we want to lock it, or at least for a chest. If we do /lock on a chest, it's going to ask us if we want to lock that chest. But also, as it's opening up the confirmation GUI, whether we want to lock it or not, it's also going to put that block in our name or the player instance of the player within a hash map within the QuarterMaster YouTube main class. So if we go to QuarterMaster YouTube, we can see that we have this hash map here, which is something we made so that we can basically transfer data across classes. So basically, if we did not have this, the menu listeners class here would not know what block we're referencing. It would not know what the hell we're doing, right? It didn't know, like right here, whenever they click yes or they told them of undying, it's going to say creating new lock, and then it's going to do lockutils.create new lock. But then for lockutils, we also need to provide an instance of the block that we're trying to lock so that we can get data from it. But we're grabbing that data from the hash map, which is kind of a stupid system. I don't want to have to create a hash map and then put everything in a hash map and then go to another class and then take it from the hash map. It's just kind of a messy system. So now that we have a more centralized class system for the GUI manager, we can basically do this. This is kind of cool. So if we want to do it differently, what we can do here is actually go to GUI manager, the actual class, and let's make a variable up here, and we'll do private block lock to create, and this is how we're going to store it instead of the hash map. We're going to store it here, and so that means that since we're storing it here, we can basically access it from any menu system that we want to. But now if we want to access this variable, because it's private, we need to make some methods. So we'll do that. Let's go down here. We're going to make some getters and some setters. Actually, we can just code generate it, can't we? Generate getter and setter, and we'll do for lock to create. Boom. So now we have public block get lock to create, and then public void set lock to create block lock to create. This dot lock to create is equal to lock to create. So basically, this is going to allow us to get, or this one at least, the get method is going to allow us to get an instance of the lock that we're trying to create from any class. And for example, that would be right here. Instead of having to grab it from the hash map, we can directly grab it from the GUI manager class by calling on the get method. Okay, so let's try testing that out. We'll change it so that it's using this system now. So go to lock command, and we're going to move this down here actually. So before it opens up the confirmation menu, we want to do GUI manager dot set lock to create, and we can't do that for some reason. And that's actually because GUI manager, we don't have an instance of that class, so we need to make an instance of GUI manager basically. So we can do that. We'll do GUI manager. We'll call it lock menu system is equal to new GUI manager, and that's easy. So now we can do GUI manager.set. Wait, what the heck? I still can't call the method. Let's go back here and check it out. Oh, I see. The reason it doesn't work is we're calling upon the class like it's static. We need to use the object that we just created. So lock menu system dot set lock to create. There we go. So now we can provide an instance of the lock or the block that we're going to be turning into a lock, possibly, you know, depending on whether or not they confirm it in this menu here. So anyway, we'll just pass in target. So now that should save an instance of the block that we're trying to lock within the GUI manager system. And by the way, I'm kind of sick of this GUI manager name. Let's change this to something more like a better name. So we'll do refactor rename, and we're going to say, I'm going to call it lock menu system, since it's going to be representing the whole menu system for the entire lock system. Okay, that makes more sense. So refactor, and now it's just going to change that name wherever it's called within the code here. So now we go back here and we can see that instead of GUI manager, it automatically says lock menu system, which is pretty cool. That's why IntelliJ is pretty powerful in that aspect. But anyway, so that's good. Now that we're setting the lock, we also want to go back to menu listeners and delete this where we're trying to get it from the hash map. Instead of getting it from the hash map, all we got to do is do, well, first we need an instance of the lock menu system class. So lock menu system lock menu system is equal to new lock menu system. And then we could do lock menu system dot get lock to create, and that's all we got to do. And let's go into our QuarterMaster YouTube main thing here and just delete the entire hash map since we don't need it anymore. Perfect. Okay, we'll just keep those whatever. And so that should be it for that. That should work the same. It's just more clean and now more efficient in my opinion. And let's think about how we want to do this also. Also, what I want to do is basically make all of these methods here not static. Just make them public void, because what I want to do here is have a separate lock menu system object for each player. And you might be wondering, why would I want to do that? Why not just make every method static so that I can access it without having to make a object of lock menu system class? And the reason is because, like I said, I want to make a lock menu system object for each player. And the reason I want to do that is because if you think about it, what if multiple players are trying to make a lock at the same time? It's going to call upon set lock to create for both of those players. So basically, if one player is trying to lock a chest right here, it's going to set the lock to create right inside that class. But then another player right here could be locking it, and it's going to override what that player is trying to lock. So it's going to override the block that was passed into lock menu system by what this player just did, basically. Okay. So if we have a lock menu system object for each player, we won't have problems like that, so that each player is not sharing an instance of the lock menu system they have. So yeah, let's go ahead and make that change. So back to QuarterMaster YouTube. And so I deleted all the static keywords from all of these methods here. So let's also make a constructor. So we'll do code generate. Actually, we'll make a player thing here first. So player p is equal to, or actually we'll just leave it uninstantiated. And then now we can make our constructor. So code generates constructor, and we'll just pass in p as the constructor parameter. So every time we declare a new object of lock menu system, we just pass in the player that we want that lock menu system to be connected to, and then that's how we know which lock menu system we're working with. So every player is not sharing a lock menu system. All right. So now we need to go throughout our plugin and also make the changes that we just made. Since every method is not static anymore, we can see that one of these methods here, as we're calling it, is now giving an error basically because we're doing lock menu system as a class, not the object. So lock menu system.open-GUI. So that's going to fix that pretty easy. And then now we have a little error here because we're not preventing a player. And all it wants, if we do Control B, just want an instance of the player that we're going to connect to that lock menu system to. So we're just going to pass in P just like that. So every time we want to use the lock menu system in some way, we just need to make an object of that lock menu system. And we're going to make that a little more advanced in the future, don't worry. But yeah, so let's go throughout our plugin and make changes in other places where we need to. Menu listeners right here. So now we could do, let's do it at the very top. So we'll do lock menu system is equal to new lock menu system, and then just pass in P. So whenever a player clicks on the inventory click event, it's going to make their lock menu system for them, and then it's going to do, and then now we can call it throughout the entire method here without having to redeclare every time in every one of these if statements here. Okay, so we can just delete this. We don't need this right here. Now we could also go down here, fix this. So lock menu system. Now that's fixed, and we also have get menu. It says non-static method get menu cannot be referenced from a static context, so we'll just do lock menu system just like that, and that should fix that. Let's see if I have any more issues with this. Yeah, we need this here, so let's just delete this. We don't need this anymore since we're not working with the hash map. Yeah, that should be it for that. List command. Oh yeah, we need to change this one also. Okay, so we'll make that change. Lock menu system. Oops, pass in P, so it's connected to a player. Each player needs to have their own lock menu system, don't forget that. So there's no issues with that. And then we just need to change this right here. Perfect. So since we've made that big change, there's something even cooler we can do. As you can see here, every time we want to open up one of the menus, we're passing an instance of the player that we want to open that menu for. But since every player has their own lock menu system object associated with them, we don't even need to pass in P as a parameter anymore, since we already know what P is within the class. So we can go into lock menu system, wherever that is. I keep losing it. There we go, lock menu system. We can go into here, and all we got to do is just delete the parameter from each of these, like that. And the reason, again, that we're doing that, the reason we're not trying to pass in a player every time we want to change the inventory or the menu for the player is because we already have an instance of player up here, and that is being instantiated every time we construct a new instance of lock menu system, okay? So it's just verbose, or I think that's the right word, it's just verbose to be passing in a player object when we already have access to a player object, okay? Anyway, so that's just a cool change. Now we need to go throughout our plugin and make that change just by deleting the parameters. So we'll go to menu listeners and right here. Good. And that cleans up our code a bit, if you ask me. It looks kind of nice. Alright, so now we're just going to test it out to see if we broke anything, since we made a bunch of changes. So I'll see you in the server. Alright guys, I'm back on the server, so let's test it out now. So we'll do, put a chest down here, we'll do /lock. Now we're going to click yes. So creating new lock. It didn't close the inventory for us. Kind of weird. But let's go to list now and see if it has that chest that we just created a second ago. And it does, I think. Let's see. Yeah, that should be correct, I guess. Let's do another one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 currently. So let's add another one just to make sure that works. So, not list, lock. Yep. Now we'll do /list. And now, oh yeah, it didn't work. It's not in here, okay? That's weird. So yeah, we have an error here in the console. Alright, so we had an issue with line 20 of lockutils. If we go to lockutils, we have an issue here. On this line it says null pointer exception. And the issue actually seems to be is that whenever we go to lock command, whenever we do /lock, we're also creating a lock menu system object, which we're connecting to a player object. And then we're going to add that player, or we're going to set that block by doing set lock to create and then providing that block as a target, right? We're doing that for that object. And then we're going to go to, since that object is now saved, since that block is now saved, we're going to go to menu listeners, right? We're going to go to menu listeners, and then we're going to do .create new lock, and then do lock menu system .get lock to create, which you might think is just going to give you that lock that was stored within the lock command. But actually, if you look up here, we're creating an entirely new object, but with the same player. You may think that it might be referencing the same player just because we're providing, or just because every player is unique. But since we're actually making a new lock menu system object with that same player, it's actually going to really be making an entirely new object. So what we need to do is grab that object that was created here and make sure it's accessible within here or any other class that we want to access that object. So basically each player needs to have their own lock menu system object, but only one, okay? Not many of them. So we need to fix that issue, and there's an easy way we could do that. We could go to QuarterMaster YouTube, and we can make a new hash map. I know I just kind of ranted against hash maps, but it fits better in this case, since I'm contradicting what I said. It fits better. But anyway, so we're going to do public void, or public static hash map, and you'll see why it's static in a second. So hash map, we're going to pass in player, and then we're going to pass in a lock menu system object. And with this hash map, we can ensure that each player has their own lock menu system object is stored on the system, basically. So we're going to do lock manager, or we'll do lock menu system hash map is equal to new hash map, right? And the reason we made it static is because we're going to go down here and make a static method that enables us to get a unique instance of the player's lock menu system. So we'll do public static. We'll call it, or no, we need to choose what we want to return. So we're just going to return an object of lock menu system, obviously. So lock menu system, and we'll call it get. And we're going to call this get player menu system, and we're going to call this method throughout our plugin every time we want to get an instance of lock menu system, instead of having to create a new one every time. So we're just going to pass in an instance of the player that we want to get it for, right? So P. Now we're going to open this up here. And now let's do lock menu system. Lock menu system is equal to null, and then we'll do if QuarterMaster YouTube dot lock menu system hash map dot contains P. So if that hash map that we just created contains a player, that means that we already have an instance of lock menu system for that player. So we don't need to be creating a new one. So since it contains that, what we want to do is just return lock menu system hash map dot get P. So we're just going to return that instance of lock menu system from that player from the hash map. So else if, meaning if there is not a instance of player within that hash map, you know, the one that we provide, that means that that player does not have an instance of lock menu system in our plugin, right? So we just need to create a new one. So we'll do else, not else if. So we need to create a new one. So we could do that by doing lock menu system is equal to new lock menu system and then pass in p. And then don't forget, we also need to store that into the hash map so we can use that in the future instead of creating a new one every single time like we're already doing. And we could do that by doing lock menu system hash map dot put p and then lock menu system, just like that. And then finally we can return lock menu system. So this is just a simple method that's going to return a lock menu system object for a player that you provide. And what it's going to do inside of here is check and see if they already have one. And if they already have one, we're just going to return the one they already have. But if they don't have one already, we're going to instantiate a new object of lock menu system and then save that in the hash map and then finally return that so that we can use it, okay? So now we can go into lock command or wherever we want to use that. And instead of doing lock menu system is equal to new lock menu system, we're going to do QuarterMaster YouTube dot get player menu system and then just pass in p. So again, instead of creating a new one, we're going to try and get one that's already created. And then if there's not one already created for that player, we're just going to create a new one, okay? So hopefully that makes sense, that whole concept. So we just copy this here and go throughout the other parts of the plugin. There we go, QuarterMaster YouTube, lock utils, chess listeners. I don't think I'm doing it here. Yeah, I think I'm good now. I think that's all the places I've done that. Yeah, so that should be good. So now let's compile this plugin and see if that helps our problem. Alright guys, I'm back. So let's test out this new system that we just created for the lock menu system object. So now we can do, put an object here, or actually we'll see what we have already in the system. So we'll do /list, and there's nothing here, we actually have one. But we're gonna make a new one now, so /lock, lock that, yes, and now the menu goes away, that's good, that's a good sign. It says creating a new lock. If we open this up here, there's no errors anymore. It says a new lock created. So it should work. So we're going to test it out by doing /list, and we can see it now. It's inside of here. So perfect. That's exactly what we wanted it to do. And we can click on this if we want to. And we haven't added any functionality for this yet, of course. But yeah, pretty cool. So that's fixed now. So every player has their own unique lock menu system object, which we can use to control the GUI system for every player on the server. All right, so let's move on and continue developing the plugin. Next, what I want to do is set up this menu here. So if we click on one of the chests, this doesn't actually do anything yet, so we want to make this actually do stuff. So let's set that up. It shouldn't be too hard. The hard part, or not the hard part, but the tedious part will be actually setting up the various menus for each of these buttons. This one will not have a menu associated with it, it's just for information. So you hover over it and you see it, and then we're just going to make this go back to the previous menu. So we can do that. So we're going to make another else if here, because we're going to be testing for another menu, or a title at least. So get title equals ignore case, and now let's go to lock menu system and copy the title of that menu. So lock manager should be the title, I think. Yep, looks about right to me. So then we'll open this up now, and I don't actually think this does anything at this point, or this one at least, checking for null. So I thought it was gonna like basically keep it from saying null whenever you click on stuff like in the menu, but I don't think it actually does anything. So we'll figure that out. But for now, we're just gonna leave it out. But of course, we need to do e.setCancel so that we cannot move items within the inventory. And now we can start testing for the various things that we're going to click on. So we'll do the easy one first. We'll do the barrier. So if they click the barrier, that means they want to go back. So if e.getCurrentItem dot get type dot equals material dot barrier, that means they want to go back, obviously. So we'll do go back to previous menu. So lock menu system dot which menu is it? It's the locks menu. So that's going to be the locks list GUI. Open locks list GUI. Pretty cool. That should do that. So now we'll do else if, because we need to test for the other items. So if they click on the we'll do the wither rows first. If they click on the wither rows, then e.getCurrentItem.getType equals material wither rows. So if they click on that, that means they want to maybe delete the lock from their, just delete the lock. So we want to show the delete lock menu. We don't have that yet, so we're just going to have a comment here saying open up confirm menu to delete lock. Okay, so that's going to do that for us. And then finally, we have one more. That's the armor stand, which is going to represent the access manager. So that's going to be where we can edit who has access to the lock. So like you could add your friends to it, remove your friends from it, see who has access, all that stuff. So that's going to be what that's for. So armor stand, and we'll do open the access manager. Okay, pretty simple. So now we need to make those two menus, the delete lock menu and the access manager menu. The delete lock menu is going to be much easier, so we'll just do that one first. So go to lock menu system, and let's set that up now. So we'll go down here and do public void show delete, or show confirm delete menu. All right. And I'm going to do show instead of open because technically we're already opening a menu. It doesn't actually matter. But yeah, we'll do show confirm delete menu, and we'll just copy this right here. That's all we got to do, and then we'll give it a new name. Let's give it a name of, we're going to make this red for, because red is like for delete, I guess you could say. And we're going to say confirm delete lock, question mark. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill everything else out so you don't have to see me type all the items into the inventory and do all that stuff. So I'm going to type it out real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, I got it now. So it's just some basic stuff like yes and then no buttons. The yes button is going to be the emerald, and then the no button is going to be a barrier. So if we click yes, it's going to, we need to process that and make sure that we delete the log from the database. And if we click no, we need to process that and then, just go back basically because they don't want to delete. They changed their mind. And then this right here is just going to fill all of the other slots with gray stained glass panes so that we can, it just looks better. So I'm going to show you how this looks, but first to do that we need to go back here to menu listeners and actually call it. So we'll do lock menu system dot show confirm delete menu. There we go, that's all we got to do. So now let's compile this and see how it looks like in the server, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back now. Let's test it out. So we'll do /list, and then we just need to pick a lock, obviously. So click this one, and let's see if we can move stuff first. Good, we cannot move stuff anymore. That's good. Let's go back. That works, pretty awesome. Let's open this up. Let's try deleting a lock. Click this. We got the confirm delete lock menu. Pretty cool. We need to add the functionality for this one also, so we'll get to doing that. Well, let's also test the access manager. Oh yeah, we didn't add that one yet, but yeah, it works pretty much to what we added so far. So now let's add the access manager, and then after that, we're gonna set up the confirm delete functionality, so it actually is able to delete locks from the player's lock system. Okay. So first, let's set up the last option here for armor stand. So we'll go to lock menu system, and we just need to create a thing for that. So public void show. What do we want to call this? Show access manager menu. So show access manager menu. I think that's a fitting name. The access manager for the armor stand is going to be how we how the player is able to add and remove players from their lock. So other people can access it and stuff like that. And like last time, I'm just gonna. Well, actually, first let's set up the title for it. So menu is equal to bucket dot create new inventory p, and now we need to set some other things like the size. And for the size for this, we're gonna have, let's do 45. That's pretty big. And then for the title, we'll do chat color dot green. We'll say access manager. Perfect. So that's what we're gonna do for that. And then now I'm just gonna fill in all of the items and everything, so you don't have to watch me type it in. All right, so I got everything filled in here. And what I got so far is 3 buttons primarily, or actually 4 including the close button, but 3 primary buttons. We have remove player, we have view players, and then we have add player to lock. Those are 3 buttons, and those will do obviously what they describe. So let's test this out now. So we just need to add this. Oh yeah, we also added the filler glass again, just to fill up empty space, and then the close button to go back to the previous menu. So let's go ahead and add this this method here to the menu listeners thing. Just go down here, lock menu system, open or access manager. What is it? Open access manager. Wait. Oh, show access manager. That makes sense. And before we test this out, let's actually just go ahead and set up the confirm delete menu. Just get that done with. So e.getView.getTitle.equals ignore case, and now we can go back here and grab the title. Let's get rid of all this empty, all this space here, all these tabs here. Okay, that's better. So we just need to grab the title. So we'll go down to show confirm delete menu. Just copy this right here. Good. I'll go back here and paste it like that. And now we can open this up here and we can do what we need to do. So set cancel true, so they cannot move items anymore. And then what are the two options? If we go back here, let's see what the options are. So we got this, and we got an emerald, and then we got a barrier. So the barrier, let's do that one. That's pretty easy. So we'll do if e.getCurrentItem.getType equals material.barrier. We're just going to go ahead and do or go back. So the previous menu was the lock manager menu, so we'll just go back to this menu. So let's call it lock menu system dot show or open lock manager GUI. Is that what it is? Yeah, open lock manager GUI. But now inside of here, if you do Control P, we need an instance of the document or the lock, which is kind of interesting. How do we get that? So, well, we had the lockUtils.getLock method, so we could try using that. So lockUtils.getLock, and that's able to convert a lock ID to a document object. We could do that as we're doing up here, but let's actually change this a bit. So let's make it so that we only have to provide the ID of the lock to call upon this menu here. Or actually, let's just make it this so that whenever they click on one of the locks or one of the chests within the menu, we use we set that ID within the class like we did for lock2create, so that we can access it at any time. So we know which lock we're working with within the menu system, so we don't have to keep passing in a new lock ID every time. So let's try that out. Let's see if we can do something like that. So let's do it right here. So private string lock ID, and we're going to make some getters and setters for that so we can manipulate it. Because sometimes they may go back in the menu to display all of their locks again and then click a different lock, so we just need to reset that. And I'll show you how that works. So generate getter and setter for string. There we go. So get lock ID and then set lock ID. So let's do it like this. Whenever they click on one of the chests, we want to do lock menu system dot set lock ID, because they clicked on that one, right? So we want to set the lock ID for the menu. So to get the lock ID, we have it displayed at the very bottom of our lore here, as you can see, just like before. So we can actually just grab it from there like we're doing right here. So get menu.getItem. Let's just grab all of that juicy stuff right there. That's good. So now that we're setting the lock ID, we can just do open lock manager menu like that. So we'll go back here. Open lock manager menu or GUI, that's what it is, right? Yeah, open lock manager GUI. So yeah, let's just delete this parameter here. We don't need to provide a document anymore. That's an old system. Now, and then we just need to change this here. We'll do that in a second, but yeah, now we can go back here, and as you can see, the error went away because we're just opening it. We don't need any parameters anymore, basically, right? And so we'll work with that in a second, but we can go down here now and do the same thing. We only need to call it just like that. And there's no issues because we're going to know which lock we're working with because we just set it up here whenever they clicked on one of the locks, right? So now let's set it up. So we need to make this work again, basically. So just to fix that, all we got to do is, since we have the ID stored in the class now, or the object technically, we can just grab that and then get an instance of this lock document that we had before by doing document lock is equal to lockUtils dot get lock, and then just provide the ID. I'll just do this dot ID just to be precise. And so that should do that for us. So we're doing the lock now, and then we're going to get the location from that lock object, and then yeah, everything's the same pretty much. And we don't need to display the ID at the bottom anymore because now everything's stored in the class. But yeah, we'll just keep it though, just good information to have, I guess, for the user. But yeah, everything's done in the class now, all that lock ID stuff. We don't have to pass it in as a parameter every time we want to open up the lock manager GUI. And then also, along with that, every time they click on a lock within the locks list, it's going to set the lock ID for the menu system before continuing. So every time we switch between locks, every time a player switches between locks, it's going to set that lock ID for us. And hopefully that makes sense for you. Anyway, so now that we have that cool little functionality, we want to continue what we were doing. So the delete lock menu system. So if they click on the barrier, we just want to go back, and it's going to open up the lock manager GUI. That's good. And then now else if they click on the emerald, which is for yes, e.getCurrentItem.getType equals material.emerald. So they clicked yes, that means that they want to delete the lock. So we could do delete lock since they confirmed yes. So we need to let's go into lock utils, and we don't have anything for deleting locks, do we? Oh, we actually do. Wait, when did we do that? Yeah, I really don't remember ever making the delete lock method. I don't know why I did that, because we didn't even have the functionality in the menu system to be deleting locks. I guess I just was trying to get ahead or something. Hopefully I did that in the video. I'm pretty sure I did, I just don't remember. Anyway, so let's use that since we have it. So all we gotta do now is do lock utils dot delete lock, and now we just provide a, oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. The reason we have it is because this is set up for whenever we automatically break a chest, it's going to automatically delete the lock for us every time we break a chest that is locked, okay? So that makes sense. So this is a method set for breaking blocks. If you do Control P, basically, right, it's asking for a reference to the block object that we're breaking. So we just need to make another one that accepts an ID. We just want to override this method basically for accepting an ID. So we want to have two different versions of the delete lock method, one for deleting blocks whenever we break a chest or something like that, and then one also for deleting IDs directly from the menu system. Okay, so yeah, I'll show you how that looks in a second. So yeah, public-sided void delete lock, and we'll pass in a lock ID. So string is a string. Yeah, string lock ID, and then we'll open this up here, and we want to first get an instance of the document that the ID is associated with, kind of like we did a second ago, because we can't delete a document from the database without having a reference of that document, right? So we'll do document lock is equal to lock utils dot get lock ID. That lock utils get lock method right here is actually very useful. I found so that we just don't have to keep calling this every time. But yeah, anyway, so now that we have an instance of the lock document, we can delete it from the database by doing QuarterMaster YouTube.get database collection dot delete one, and then we just pass in lock as the filter for that. So that's going to delete the lock from the database. So now we go back here and we just need to pass in the lock ID as a parameter. If you do Control P, we can see that we have both parameters now, since we made an overridden version of the original function. So yeah, we need the lock ID, and we can get the lock ID, remember, by doing lock menu system dot get lock ID. See, now that's very useful also. So we don't have to grab it from the lore of an item. So that's why I wanted to do a centralized class system. That's one of the main reasons, right? So anyway, that's very helpful. And then also let's send the player message just telling them that their lock was deleted, because obviously they might want to know if it worked or not or something like that. So we'll do track color green, your lock. Let's provide an ID of the lock that was just deleted, so they're not going to be able to know which lock was deleted from its ID, but just why not? We'll do lock ID, check color dot gold, and now we need to get the lock ID, so lock menu system dot get lock ID. Then we want to do check color dot green, closing parentheses, has been deleted. Okay, so that should look pretty good. So let's test all of this out just to make sure it works. So what we did before we tested out, we added the confirm delete menu. It's all set up now, hopefully. And then we also added the access manager menu, but we haven't set that up exactly in terms of the menu listener for it, but we actually added the menu so we can look at it. So let's see if both of those things are now set up. So I'll see you in the server. All right, I'm in the server now. Let's reload. Cool. So we'll do /list, and we got our menu. So click a lock. This still works. We can go back here, delete lock, this still works, so let's go back. That works, awesome, perfect. And now let's try deleting the lock, yes. And it says your lock, blah, 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 has been deleted, perfect. And it doesn't close the menu, so let's actually make it do that. Let's make it go back rather than close it. Let's do, right here, we want to make it go back, so we'll do lock menu system dot open lock manager GUI. Okay, cool, it's just gonna go to the previous GUI, okay? Anyway, so we know that works, so it's able to delete the lock. So let's make sure that is actually deleted. So we do list, and now the lock is gone. Pretty cool. So we can open this one here, and we could do access manager, and we can also see the access manager. This is how it looks. We got the remove player, we got the view players, and the add player to lock buttons here. And then we can also go back, but we haven't set that up yet, or any of them up. So now that's going to be the next target for what we want to do. So let's go and set that up now. So we're going to make that here. So else if e.getView.getTitle equals ignore case, chat color. Oh, well, let's just grab it from here, obviously. Lock manager, perfect. Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. Wait. There we go. Okay, got that now. So we got the lock manager, and then we also need to do e.setCancel true. And wait, that's the wrong thing. I just realized it's not lock manager, it's access manager that we want to grab. Access manager, perfect. Got it. So first things first, of course, let's do the barrier so we can do that. Make it go back if we need to. So e.getCurrentItem.getType.equals material.barrier. So if they click the barrier, that means they want to go back. So we'll do lock manager GUI or lock menu system dot, and then now the previous menu was the lock manager. So we'll do show access, or wait, no, not access manager. We're on the access manager. Open lock manager GUI. There we go. Let's rename these, by the way. And so yeah, let's rename these. It's kind of getting annoying here. So these are called show access manager. This one's called show confirm delete menu, but these are still called open lock manager GUI. So let's rename this to show. So refactor. Boom. That's going to rename everything for us. That's why IntelliJ is the best. Okay, refactor, rename. And then finally, you got this one here. And we might rename this one also to something else other than Ask GUI, because that's kind of vague, kind of weird. But yeah, we'll do that later. So yeah, we'll go back here now. So we got the thing that makes it go back. So let's also add some more stuff. So e.getCurrentItem.getType.equals, and let's see what else we got. So we got, let's just reopen this. I mean, there we go. So we got the redstone block here for removing players, and then we got view players, and then we got add a player to lock. Let's do the easiest one. They're all pretty hard for what they're going to be doing, but we'll do view players first. So view players, that's going to be a player head. So material.playerHead. So we want to do open player list GUI, and we need to make that over here. So we'll go to lock menu system, and we're going to make that GUI. So public static, not static, right? Yeah, stupid, silly me. Show player list GUI. Actually, we'll call this show players with access menu, something like that. That's a better name. So first, let's set up the title for it. So menu is equal to bucket.createInventory P. We'll make it 45, as big as possible, because there's probably a lot of players. And we'll do chat color yellow. Players with access to lock. How about that? Okay. Okay. So first, we need to think about how we're gonna add players to a lock. How do we represent that in our database? So currently our database has only 3 things. So we go here to create lock. We have, or 4 things rather. We have UUID, type, location, and creation date. We need to add another thing that's going to hold all of the player UUIDs that have access to our lock. So basically every time we add a new player to this lock, we want to add that UUID to their lock in the database. So we could do an array list. I think that's probably the easiest thing we could do in terms of representing that in JSON and as a document. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add that. So every time we create a new lock, we want to add a 4th or a 5th field for our array list that's going to hold all the access. So access, and we'll do new. We need to set the data type, so new array list. Sorry if you heard that. New array list, and the data type is going to be a string, because we can easily convert a UUID into a string pretty easy. So basically we're just going to have an array list that's going to be named access within our JSON. Okay, pretty cool. So now inside of here, inside the show players with access menu, we want to get that list and then loop through it basically. So we can loop through each player on that access list if there is any people. So let's get the array list first and foremost. So array list string, we'll call it access list, is equal to, so first we need to get the actual document, get the lock, right? So lock utils dot get lock ID, or no, get lock, and then just pass in the lock ID, so this lock ID. And from there we want to get the access array list, and that's pretty much all we got to do. We just need to cast it, by the way, because on the left side we have array list, on the right side we have an object. So we're just going to cast it now. So basically what we're doing here on this line is basically just grabbing the array list from our document and then storing it into an array list object so we can access it. So now that we have this object representing a bunch of strings of players, we need to loop through it. So first let's see if it's empty or not, because of course there could be no one added onto the lock, right? So we'll do access list dot is empty. If that's true, then we want to do system, and let's send the player a message telling him that there is no one on that lock that can access it, basically. So chat colored, we'll do gray, and we'll say you have not added anyone to this lock. Okay, that's very simple. So now we'll do else. If it's not empty, that means that we have players that we need to list inside of this menu. So we're going to loop through each player in the array list here. So int I is equal to 0, I is less than access list dot, and we want to get the size of it. So the size is how many strings we have inside the array list. Pretty simple. So basically the same thing as a length for an array. So as long as, and then I++, right? Just looping through each thing in the array or array list. And now we want to grab the UUID from each player inside of the array list. So we'll do UUID is equal to UUID, and let's import that. And then there's a special method inside of the UUID, a static method inside the UUID class from string. So we could basically take a string and then convert it directly to a UUID object. Pretty cool. That's perfect for what we need. So we do access list dot get I for whatever index we're looping through. So now that we have the UUID for that player, we can make a player object from it. So player P2, since we already have a player object at the top here. So player P2 is equal to, well, actually we'll call it something more fitting. Player with access is equal to bucket.getPlayer, and then we can just provide a UUID as a parameter, which is perfect. Plug in the UUID that we just got. And then finally, now that we have that player object, we can get information from it, like the player's name and stuff like that. So let's make an item stack here. Item stack player is equal to new item stack. And material player head, just one of them. And we'll do, when you get the item meta player meta is equal to player.getItem meta. And we'll do player meta dot set display name equal to the player with access dot get display name. So we're setting the display name of the item equal to the player's actual name, so that whenever they hover over the player head in the menu, they know which player that is, obviously. So now we'll just do player. So now we'll just do player dot set item meta player meta and menu.addItem player, just like that. So that should be good. We're basically looping through every player within the array list of players who can access that lock, and then displaying each of those players as a head into the menu. Okay, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And what else do we want to do? Let's add a back button or a barrier at the very end of it, so outside of the loop and everything like that. So I'll just type that out and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got it here. So item stack close is equal to new item stack a barrier. Pretty cool. We just have a barrier. It's named close, and it's equal to 44, which is the last slot within our menu. Okay, because 45 slots, 0 based, 44. And then finally we have, of course, the filler glass. That's what we've been doing so far. And then yeah, one more thing. We just need to do p.open menu or open inventory menu, just like that. Okay. So that should be it for the show players with access menu. Now we just need to go back to menu listeners and actually use it. So lock menu system dot show players with access menu, and that should work just how we need it to. But there's going to be one issue basically. I think there's probably going to be an error if we try running this. Is if we try opening up the players or show players with access menu, we're going to get an error because there's actually no array list named access within any of the objects that we have in the MongoDB database currently. Because up to this we've only made all of the objects without this, right? So all of the ones in the database currently are going to not have this, right? So before we test it, we want to test it on a lock that actually has this. So we just need to make a new lock basically, just so there's no error with that. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'll see you on the server. Alright, I'm back on the server. I just reloaded. So let's try making a new lock to see if it works. And we're going to check the database also just to see if it has the new value. So click yes, got a new lock here. Go back to the database right here and reload. There we go. So we get the third lock here, and as you can see at the very bottom, it has the access value here. Nothing inside of it, of course, because we haven't put anything inside of it, but it's here at least, so we know it works. That's pretty cool. So we'll do /list now. Click on the new lock, open up Access Manager, and click on View Players. And as you can see, it says you have not added anyone to the lock, so it works. That's pretty cool. And it says players with access to lock. Awesome. And then now if we add players to our access thingy-majiggy, it should show their heads right here. But we have to actually add that part, so we need to do that also. So if we go back to here, what I mean is we need to add one of these. We need to add this, right? So add player to lock. We want to make it so that when we click on this, it shows a bunch of players' heads that you can click on, that you can add to your lock as one of the access people. And then we click on this again, and then it should show their head right here because they can now access the lock, right? So go to menu listeners, and we want to set it up so whenever they click on, let's see, they click on the emerald eye thingamajiggy. Whenever they click on that, we're going to open up a menu for that to allow them to add a player. So let's add else if get current item dot get type dot equals material dot ender eye. I think that's what that is. So when they click on that, we want to open players to add menu. Okay, so we'll do lock menu system dot, and we don't actually have that yet, so we'll go back here and make that. So public void show players to add menu, and we're going to call this menu is equal to bucket dot create inventory P54 and then check color dot green, choose a player to add. Pretty cool. And now we want to cycle through every player on the server and put them inside of here as a head so they can be chosen basically. So we'll do array list player list is equal to new array list p dot get server, so get the server of the player, and then get online players. So we're getting every player that's online in the server into an array list, and now we want to cycle through each of those players in the array list. So int I is equal to 0, I is less than list size, I plus plus, and now we'll do item stack player head is equal to new item stack material dot player head 1 to represent the player, and we're just going to represent them with the player head. That's what we're doing. So item stack meta and then now we want to add the player head to the GUI and add item player head. So it's going to add all those items to the GUI, and then after that is done, we just want to add the close button like we did a second ago, and then add the filler glass. So I'm just going to pretty much just copy and paste that from up here, right there. And we want to set this, since this menu is 54 slots, we want to set this to 53, like that. That should be good. And yeah, that should be good. So that should add every player to that menu for them to be clicked on. So we'll go back here now, and we'll do show players to add a menu. There we go, and it should show that for us. And one more menu we need to do is the show players to remove menu. So we want to allow the player to remove the player from their lock if they need to for some reason. So material dot redstone block open players to remove menu. So lock menu system dot show players. Oh yeah, we don't have that yet, obviously. So pretty much with this one, it's pretty much the exact same thing as the show players with access menu, because you can only remove a player who has access to the lock. So we can just theoretically copy all the code for this one, because it's gonna basically do the same thing. Oops, I don't know what I just did. There we go. So now we just need to change players to remove menu, players to remove menu. There we go. That's good. And now we're just changing this to choose the player to remove. Okay. I'll go back here and we'll do show players to remove menu. Perfect. Exactly what we need. Konnichiwa. I just wanted to see how this looks in the game. So I just reloaded it just now. So we'll do /list. Click this. This still works pretty good. Let's click yes. Okay, that's deleted. It still didn't make me go back though when I clicked yes. Let's add that real quick actually. So we'll go back to whenever we delete the lock, we want to show the lock manager GUI. It didn't do that though. That's a little weird. I'll figure that out. So click the list, go here and open this up. Now we could look at, oh, remove player does not work. Oh, I think it's because we just tried to access the access array list from a chest that is not new, so it doesn't have the new array list thing. So we'll just make a new one real quick. Click yes. That's locked now, so let's /list, open this one up, and there we go. So this one works. It shows all of the stuff, and it says I didn't add anyone to the lock. I can go, well, I can't go back, but it works at least. So we can open this up. View players, good. This doesn't work either. But yeah, so let's add that so it'll work now. So we got the access manager. Now we want to do, let's go ahead and do the add a player one. So we'll make sure that works specifically. So else if e.getView dot get title equals ignore case, we'll go to lock menu system and choose a player to add is what we want to do. So copy that one, go back here, oops, and paste that just like that. So that should add that, easy peasy. And first we want to do e.set canceled, true. And now we want to think about how we want to do this. So in the choose a player to add menu, we're going to have a bunch of heads show up with all the players that the server has online. And we want it to be where they click one of the heads, and then it's going to ask them if they want to confirm yes or no, if they're sure they want to add that to their lock. So basically we want to check and see if they click a head, right? So e.get current item dot get type dot equals material dot player head. There we go. So if they click a player head, what we want to do is open the confirm menu, open confirm menu for adding a player. So we'll do that now. So okay, let's just add the other ones real quick though first before we do that. So else if material dot well, we need a barrier also, so let's add that one, might as well. Else wait, I forgot to do the other stuff. Material dot barrier. Pretty cool. We got that. And so that's going to make us go back to which menu? So we click the barrier, that's going to go back to the access manager menu. So we're going to do lock menu system dot show access manager menu, and then let's add the other ones. So oh wait, no, there is no other ones. What am I thinking? So it's only at player head. So if they click the player head, that's going to open up the confirm menu for adding a player. Otherwise, they click the barrier to go back. Okay. So we need to go and set up the player head, or the confirm menu for adding a new player. So we're going to make that down here. Show confirm add player menu. That makes sense. And so we're going to open. Come on, man. Open this up. Inside of here, we're just going to set the title, obviously. So menu.bucket create inventory. Let's think. Check color green. Confirm add a player. Okay, that should be good. Oh yeah, we need to set the other stuff obviously. So P and then 1. Wait, no, not 1. My brain doesn't work right now. So 9 slots. Okay, and now I'm gonna add the other items. So I'll be right back. There we go. So we've got the other items. We got the emerald and we got the barrier for no. So yes and no, if they want to click yes, that means that they confirm, and then we need to add the player to the access on that lock. But so let's add this method to menu listeners. So we'll do lock menu system.show confirm add player menu. Good, that's what we want. And now let's also handle that. So else if e.getView.getTitle, equals ignore case, go back here, copy this. Good, just right there. Yeah, right there. And e.setCanceled, true. And then if e.getCurrentItem.getType equals barrier, so no barrier, then let's just return them to the access manager menu. So lock menu system, show access manager menu. Else if they don't click the barrier but they click emerald, that means they click yes. So e.getCurrentItem.getType.equals material.emerald. That means that they want to add the player to the access list. So now we need to do something like add player to lock. So we'll do something like lockUtils.add player or something like that. So we need to go into lockUtils and set up that functionality. So let's try that out. So public static, and I think easy name to make this is add player to lock. That's pretty fitting. And we're just going to pass in the string, the lock ID, the lock ID. My voice is dying right now, I think, because I've been talking for like forever now. And then also the player that we want to add to that lock. So player to add. Okay, those are perfect. So if with the lock ID, we want to get an instance of the lock. So documents lock is equal to lockutils.getLock lock ID. And this next part is a little complicated because updating a document in the database, or at least was a little tricky for some reason. It actually took me a long time to figure this out, maybe a couple hours or so. But it boils down to not too much. It's not too hard, at least. But yeah, let me show you what to do. So first we need to get the actual access list of all the players who have access, or the array list from this lock here. So we'll do array list string. We'll call it access list is equal to lock.getAccess. So we're simply grabbing the array list from the document. Pretty simple, and we just need to cast it again, remember, just like that. So now that we have that, we need to add the player that we just passed in as a argument here to that access list as a UUID, as a string UUID. We can do that, it's pretty simple. So we'll do access list dot add, and we just pass in the string. So we'll do player to add dot get unique ID dot toString, and that's all we got to do for that. But the updating it part is a little more complicated. So all we need to do is basically create a document here, a couple documents actually. So new doc is equal to new document, and there probably is an easier way to do this, but this is just how I was able to do it. It sure was a pain in the butt. But access list, so we're basically just making a document or a BSON representation of this array list that we have here. That's all we're doing pretty much. And now we're going to make another document called document new doc2, which is going to represent, I don't know why you have to do this, but you have to give it a special like name, $set, and this is what allows us to update it somehow. So set new doc. So we're just passing in this document, which represents the array list, into this document here, which does something. I don't know exactly what it does, but then we want to find the document from the database, from the document stored in the lock. So now we'll just make a filter here, basically is what that means. So document filter is equal to new document, and the way we're going to filter is by its ID. That's the best way to find a document, kind of like what we did up here, pretty much exactly the same. So new document ID, and then we want to pass in, we want to get the ID from this document up here, the lock document that we got from the lock ID. We just want to grab it from there. So lock, what is it? New object ID, and we're just going to pass in string dot value of lock dot get object ID, and then we're just going to pass in the key of ID. I know that's really complicated, and maybe I don't even have to do this, but This is just what I found I have to do. So maybe there's something I'm overlooking or something like that. But yeah, that should add that for us. What's the problem here? Oh yeah, this goes inside of it, I think. So like that, I think. There we go, so that should be good. I'm not sure why I can't really just use lock instead of making a whole new filter from the ID of lock, because it technically is the same thing. I'm not exactly sure. Again, it's probably something I'm overlooking a little bit, or something obvious I just don't understand. So anyway, so now that we have that filter, we can use it to update the document. This next step is pretty simple. So QuarterMaster YouTube.get database collection .update1, and the first thing we pass in, if we do Control P, is the filter. So filter. The next thing we pass in is the updated document, which is new doc2, and yeah, that's all we gotta do. That's all we gotta do for that to update it. I know it's a little complicated, but that's what you gotta do. Anyway, so now that we have that, the add player to lock method here within lock utils, we can go back to here, or here, add player to lock, and then just pass in the name of the player that we want to add. Or first we need the lock ID, so all we gotta do is do lock_system.getLockID, and the next thing is the player, so just pass in P just like that. Oh no, we don't want to pass in that player. We want to pass in the player that we clicked on, right? So how do we get that? How do we transfer it from the choose a player to add a menu to this menu here, the confirm add player menu? Again, all we got to do is create a variable here that we can hold it within this system here, like we did up here. So we just got to create a variable for that basically. So private player to add, right? And now we can just create some getters and some setters for that, so that we can get and set it, obviously. So code generate getters and setters, players add player. There we go. So that's gonna do that for us. So now we can go down here and do lock menu system dot get player to add, and then up here, whenever we click on the player that we want to add, click on the head. We want to not only show the confirm add player menu, but we also want to add or set the player that we want to add. So lock menu system dot set player to add, and just pass in P, or no, not P, pass in the name of the head that we clicked on, right? So we can basically go into the inventory by doing lock menu system dot get menu. So we're getting the inventory that we just clicked on. Or actually, we could do this even simpler. So ed for events dot get get current item. So the item that I clicked on dot get item meta dot get lore, right? Get lore, and then get display name. No, get display name, not get lore. Get display name, and that should be it. So we're getting the display name, and yeah, so we're getting the name of the player, and all we gotta do is use that name to get a player object now. So we'll do bucket.getPlayer, and we can just pass in a string name or UID, either one is fine. There we go. So basically all we're doing right there, if you don't understand, is basically grabbing the name of the player from the item that we clicked on, the player head, and then turning that into a player object, and then setting the player to add with that player object, so that we can go down here and whenever we want to add the player to the lock, if we want to, if they click emerald, then it's gonna get it from there just by doing get player to add. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Pretty cool. So now that we have that system, that should be it for that. We're just adding the player. But once it's done adding the player, we want to close that inventory. Or rather, let's just go back to the previous menu. So lock menu system dot show access manager menu. And along with that, let's also send the player, send the player who was added to the menu, send them a message saying you were added to blah blah blah's menu. And then let's send a player who's using the menu a message saying Billy Bob 123 has been added to your lock, or something like that, right? So we'll do that, easy peasy. So we'll say, let's do it right here at the end of it. Once we're done adding it, we'll do p.send message. So the person who's using the menu will say, we'll do check color green. Added, check color yellow for the name. And we just get the name from lock menu system dot get player to add dot get name, right? Is it get it? Okay, get name. And then so now that we got the name, we got and just say to your lock like that. Oh, we just need to reset this to green, by the way, also. There we go. Looks good. So we added that to our lock, and then we want to send send a message to the other player that we just added to the lock, telling them that they were added to my lock, basically. So lock menu system dot get player to add dot send message chat color dot yellow p dot get name, so the person who's using the menu, chat color dot green has just granted you access to one of their locks. So let's test it out. Let's go back to our game and see how it looks. Okie dokie, so I'm logging in with my second account also, so that we can test it out to see if this account can get access to the other chests and everything like that. So yeah, so we'll open this up here, my main account. We just need to reload the server to get the new version of the plugin, obviously. Or actually, I need to add it, I think. So just grab this real quick, put it into here. Kaboom, chicka bam bam. Reload. And yeah, okay, so now we could do list. Click this, view players. No one can, crap, really. Let's add a player. So we can, it obviously shows all the players that's on the server, so that works perfectly, looks good. And we can also go back, which is also good. We can also go back there, pretty cool. So let's try adding a player. We don't want to add ourselves. We want to make that not available also, so we'll do that in a second. But let's click rise power 90, and then let's see if this works. No, good, that's perfect. Rise power 90, click yes this time, and now it says added rise power 90 to your lock. Perfect, exactly what we wanted. That's great. So we know that it works now. It's able to add people to our lock. But now let's make sure though. Let's go to our view players to see who has access to our lock. There we go. So it just lagged a little bit. So it says players with access to lock, and we have rise power 90. Perfect. So now that we have that, we want to, first of all, let's fix this so this is actually working. So let's do that first and foremost. So that's going to be the players with access menu. So we need to add that one. Let's do it in front of this one, just so they're all together a little bit. There we go. All right, cool. So now we'll do e.getView.getTitle equals ignore case. Go back up here and copy the name for players with access. And so you've got that now. So we can go to e.setCancel true, and then we just want to make sure that whenever they click on the back menu, the thingy, the barrier, it makes them go back. So e.getCurrentItem.getType.equals material.barrier, and whenever they click the barrier, we want to make them go back to the access menu, the main access menu. So lock menu system.show access manager menu. That's good. And let's think what else we want to add besides that. Let's do list chest lock. Blah, blah, blah. We want to add remove player. Okay, so this works. We want to add this obviously to make it like do stuff. But yeah, we want to do this. But yeah, it shows the name at least, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, let's set that up now. So we'll go back here and we'll do, we'll just copy this. We'll copy this one because it's more similar. And then now we'll go back here and copy that name for choose a player to remove. There we go. Got it. So choose a player to remove, set cancel, barrier, go back. Perfect. So that's set up now. But we also need to make it so that whenever they click ahead, it actually shows a confirm menu, like confirm, do you want to remove this player from your lock? That's what we want to do for that. So if e.getCurrentItem.getType equals material.playerHead, we want to do that like that. So when I click the head, they want to show the confirm remove menu, basically. And yeah, okay, let's move it down here though. Like that. Perfect. So that's all together now. And so show the confirm remove menu. We don't have that menu yet, so we're back to lock menu system, and we're going to add that menu real quick. Okay, so I added everything for the show confirm menu, and it's going to have the basic options, yes and no. If they click yes, then obviously they want to remove the player, and we should do that by with lock utils, and then no, that we just want to go back, and then we have the filler glass, obviously. So let's do lock utils. Let's get that over with. So we want to do, yeah, it's basically the same thing as this one. So just copy this one, paste it, and we'll call remove player from lock. There you go. Remove player from lock. And we're just going to pass in the lock ID, the player to remove. Gotcha, there we go. Alright, so now instead of adding the player from the access list, we're going to do remove the player from the access list, obviously. So that's good, and then we're just going to update that like normal, so that should be it for that. That's all we got to do for add remove player from lock. We're just removing it from the array list this time, okay, cool. And so now we can go back to menu listeners and then show the confirm remove menu, good. So show the confirm remove menu, lock menu system dot show confirm remove menu. Wait, no, that's not it. There we go, got that. And so that should be good for that. And so we'll go down to here, and then we'll just copy this really, paste it, and we'll go back to here, here, confirm remove player. So set cancel true, was that duplicated code? Cool. If current item.getType equals barrier, go back. Else if emerald, that means we're going to remove player from lock. So we can just do the same thing, remove player. There we go. And so we're just going to pass in, first we need the ID, so lock menu system.getID, and then now we need the player to remove, but we don't have that stored. So let's go back up to here and make that kind of like what we did for player to add. So private player to remove. So hopefully you see the benefits of this new menu system. Hopefully you like it, like I do, because it helps me a lot. Generates getter and setter, remove player, boom. So get lock ID, lock menu system, dot get player to remove, perfect. And then we can go up to choose a player to remove. So whenever they click the head of the player they want to remove, we want to also add that. So let's move this up real quick and do lock menu system dot set player to remove, and just pass an instance of the player that we want to remove. Bucket dot get player, and then just pass in the name of the player, and we can get the name of the player by doing lock menu system dot, or no, we want to get it from the head that we're just clicking on right now. And so all we got to do is do e.get current item dot get meta dot get display name, and that's it. So I should do that. We should be setting the player that we want to remove, and then down here we're actually going to be removing the player. So that all comes full circle now. Or wait, is it right here? Oh, it's right here. Okay, so we just want to also delete this though, since we're not adding a player anymore. But we want to send the player a message. If this works, assuming it works, we want to send them a message telling the player that Billy Bob was successfully removed from your lock or something like that. So we'll do chat color dot green. Oh yeah, green or gray. We'll do gray. I'm just feeling gray more. So removed. I'm gonna get the name of the person that we just removed. So lock menu system dot get player to remove dot get name from your lock. Okay. I'm gonna add the gray real quick. Perfect. So we got that now. And that should be pretty good. That's how we remove a player from the lock system. That should be all we need. So let's run this and see how it looks in the game. Alright, so we're back in the game, so let's test it out. So we'll do /list to see our locks. We got this one here, open this one up, remove player, we got all of this, go back, that works. View players, this works. Add player, we already added a player a second ago, so that works. So remove player, choose a player to remove. We'll click our head, and then we can go back if we want to, that's good. And then click yes, and it says remove rice priority from your lock. That should be yellow, let's make that yellow. Yeah, let's make that yellow. Perfect, that's gonna look better. But let's also see if he's actually removed from the lock. So if we open up the players with access to lock menu, it shows that the Raspberry 90 has successfully been removed from the lock, which is pretty cool. So now we could re-add them if we want to, just to test this further, and it's back. Okay, so yeah, everything works pretty much, and that's actually pretty much all I want to do for the whole menu system, actually, except that I want to make a small change where it doesn't allow you to add yourself. So we don't want our own head to show up here, which is a pretty simple fix. So let's go back to lock menu system, go to show players to add menu, and basically when it's looping through, don't add it if the player is me, basically. So let's think about how we want to do that. So if player, no, if list dot get I for whatever is in the list dot get, and then we could do dot equals, and then do lock, no, this dot p, or just pass in p, okay? And then if that's the case, let's make this opposite. So if this is not equal to me, basically when it's looping through, then you can add the player head to the thingy-majiggy. So that should be good. So let's test it out and see if that works. Awesome. So slash list, boom. Now we can click one of our chests here. Let's delete these other two because these, as we know, do not have the new confirm option. And this still does not work, which is bothering me. Whenever we click either one of, let's test this out. There has to be a reason. Okay, so I think I figured it out. So basically when we're calling upon the barrier or the emerald, well, especially the emerald, whenever we call upon the emerald, we delete the lock, which we know works because it not only deletes it, but it also sends the message your lock has been deleted. But whenever we get to this line, lock menu system dot show lock manager GUI, it basically gives us an error on the console and it doesn't change the menu, right? And that's because we have it so that whenever we do show lock manager GUI, it's trying to show the lock that was just deleted, basically. So it cannot get the information on the lock that was just deleted because it doesn't exist anymore. So basically that's why we can't show that anymore. So we're going to go back to a different menu so that the player can choose a new lock so that the lock menu system can change its lock, basically, right? So show lock list GUI, so that should work because it's going to be working with many locks. It's not going to have to grab information on all the different, or on the specific lock that was just deleted, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to fix this and I'll be right back in the game. Alright, I'm back in the game. So slash list, got the chest here. We'll delete this one, yes, and now it works, perfect. And now it shows our locks. Click this one, access manager, remove player. We got Raspberry 90, remove him, he's removed. Click this, he's not in there anymore. And then now let's test it out and see if it shows our name here anymore. So add players or lock, click this, and now it doesn't show our name, but it shows Raspberry 90 only. Perfect, everything works so smoothly. So we click on this now, and then we can add him to the menu, and then now we have him in the menu. Pretty cool. Then we can remove him again, and now he's gone from here. Okay, so everything pretty much works exactly how we wanted it to. That's pretty much it for that. The menu system, at least. Let's think about what else we can add to this plugin. Okay, so the next major thing is going to be adding it so that the player who has been added to this lock can actually access the lock, because currently we don't have that. Basically they're on the document, on the lock document in the database as someone who can access the lock, but they can't actually access the lock. They're still locked out of it. So you want to make it so that players who have been added to a lock can access a lock, right, until they have been removed. So actually I'm just going to save that for next episode because this is a really long episode already. I wanted to get everything done this episode, but as you can see it's really long because besides that, what we're going to do next episode that I just explained, I also want to add a command system, which is going to be pretty cool. So I'll be doing that as well. So stay tuned for all of that. And then finally, we should finish with configuration and permissions, which shouldn't be too hard. And besides that, if you want to see any other features in the plugin, just let me know and I'll be glad to add them, or think about adding them and add them maybe if they're good ideas. So if you want to see those ideas, then just join our Discord server, and there's a suggestions channel. You can leave suggestions for anything like that, how I can improve or anything. So just let me know. Join our Discord. There's a Discord link in the description below, so make sure you join that. We also have a huge community of developers, about 600 people, who will be glad to help you if you ever need help with anything, coding-wise, C++, Java, whatever. We have a lot of people who can help you, okay? So yeah, that's about it. I know this was a really long episode, and I'm surprised if anyone's watching me right now. If you are, then good job, you made it through. You just wasted about an hour of your life. I hope you're happy. Also, one more thing before I go is that I'm going to add all the updated code for this plugin in the description below, so you can check it out and view it in the repository. Anyway, my voice is dead now, so if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and peace.